Do you want to make this year your best year for science ever? Today I'm sharing 4 do's and don'ts that will help set you on the road to making science your kid's favorite subject this year. Welcome to episode 10 of the Teaching Science at Home show. I'm Paige Hudson, and together we're going to break down the lofty concepts of science into tips that you can use to teach a subject in your home. When I hear people complain about science being boring, it's usually because they've had lectures and textbooks and not a lot of hands-on. And quite frankly, I'd be bored with that too. So this year I'm going to give you a few tips to help you make science your kid's most favorite subject. Let's dig in. Tip number 1, do lots of experiments. Experiments are the face of science. They're the chance for students to see the principles of science in action. And that's fun and exciting. Plus, who doesn't love to blow up a volcano in your kitchen? Things like growing crystals and making slime and building robots, all that is tons of fun for your kids to see. And it gives your kids a chance to see science face to face. And so they get to really understand the principles of science by seeing them first. So doing lots of experiments helps to make science your kid's favorite subject. Tip number 2. Do read from interesting books. Look, let's face it, sometimes textbooks are really dry and boring, and you find yourself falling asleep before you even pass page 1. We don't want our students to have that kind of experience, and the great thing is, we live in the information age where we've got tons of options and resources at our fingertips. Things like visually appealing encyclopedias that will engage both sides of your student's brain with their great pictures and quality information. I like resources like Usborne, DK, and Kingfisher. They produce encyclopedias that are really great for our children. And then you can add in things like living books. These kinds of books are written by authors with a passion for the subject, so your kids catch on to the excitement of the author, and they want to read more and learn about science through these resources. At a level that your kids can understand, will help them to develop a passion for learning about science, and it'll help you make science their favorite subject for the year. Tip number 3, don't force them to write above their abilities. I know this one from personal experience. I almost killed our daughter's love of science by forcing her to write above her level. For her, science became all about having to write this 3-sentence narration on a page that, quite frankly, was a little bit of a challenge for her. So from that experience, I say that writing should be at or below the student's level so they can focus on learning the science rather than on the skill of writing. And notebooking is a fantastic way to record what students are learning in science. They have a picture, they write a sentence or two that's meaningful to them, and they treasure these notebooking pages for years to come. So don't kill your students' love of science by forcing them to write above their ability or forcing them to complete boring worksheets. Instead, use some notebooking or write at or below their level to make science your kid's favorite subject this year. Tip number 4, don't learn about science only indoors. Adding in some nature study gives students practical applications. The students get to see that science is more than what they see in the lab, or your kitchen, as it may be in this case. They get to see that science is all around us every day. They can see the principles that they're learning about in those encyclopedias and living books, and they can head outside and see those principles in action, which is a great way to reinforce what they're learning, but also to make it practical. You can also take some time to talk about what you've learned when you encounter it in real life. So let's say you're studying mold in your biology program, and lo and behold, you left that fried rice from the Chinese takeout place in the fridge a couple weeks too long, and it's now growing something that is looking pretty interesting. You can show your kids the mold. Just be careful and keep it covered in case it's grown some toxic mold. We don't want anybody getting sick. You can also hand your kids a box of popsicle sticks and say, let's build a bridge this afternoon, and see what they come up with. As you build, you can discuss the things that they've learned about in physics. So those are just 2 ideas about how you can take your science learning outside of the classroom and not just be bored sitting at a desk writing down worksheets, but actually interacting with science. So do you want this to make your best year for teaching science ever? Well then, do lots of experiments and read from interesting books. And don't force your student to write above their abilities. And don't learn about science only indoors. I trust that these 4 tips will help set you on the road to making science your kid's favorite subject this year. Want to learn more? Head over to Elemental Science and click that Tips tab. Scroll down to Videos and find Episode 10. In addition to the show notes, there are links to articles like 21 Tips for Hands-on Science, 50+ books we love to use to teach science, and 3 easy steps to get you started with notebooking. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I trust that these tips will help you as you seek to teach science in your home. If you're listening in iTunes or Stitcher, scroll on down and leave us a review so that others know how great this show is. If you're watching in Facebook or YouTube, head on down and leave us a comment. I'd love to hear your do's and don'ts for teaching science at home and any other topics about science that you'd like me to break down so you can use those tips in your home. Thanks for listening.